Then I saw my old friend Wilfred Brimley and told him about my wonderful, much-loved girlfriend. He told me she was younger than me and told me, friend, the worst thing for an old man is an old woman. Robert Duvall recently gave an interview in which he told it like it was. With more than 60 years of experience in the business, Duvall is known for speaking his mind. He shared his belief that Hollywood has lost its true spirit. He said that the shift from storytelling and artistry to money-focused productions has brought the industry down. But what made him say this? What has changed in the business that made him speak out? Let's take a closer look at what the legendary actor had to say about the state of the business. Robert Duvall was born in San Diego, California on January 5, 1931. His mother, Mildred Virginia Duval, was an amateur actress, and his father, Rear Admiral William Howard Duval, was in the U.S. Navy. As a child, Robert felt the weight of his father's expectations. His dad wanted him to go to the Naval Academy and become a soldier. He hated school and only found happiness in acting. He once said that he was bad at everything except acting and barely made it through school. Instead of doing what his father wanted, he chose to serve in the U.S. Army. This choice changed his life and allowed him to follow his passion for acting. Duvall's interest in acting began early on. He got his start at the Gateway Theater. In 1952 at the Bellport Summer Playhouse on Long Island, New York. His first role on stage was as the pilot in Laughter in the Stars, an adaptation of The Little Prince in the 1960s. Duvall got his start in television with small parts on shows like Defenders Playhouse 90 and Armstrong Circle Theater. Even though these early roles were only a taste of what was to come, Robert Duvall's first Broadway performance in the suspenseful play Wait Until Dark in 1966 was more than just a role. It was a moment that defined him. Standing under the bright lights, he showed how much he loved being on stage. He went back to the theater with renewed energy in 1977 and starred in David Mamet's intense play American Buffalo. His performance was so powerful that he was nominated for the Drama Desk Award for Outstanding Actor. The stage had become his arena, and Duvall was winning acting awards. Before his big moments on stage, Duvall had already made a name for himself. In film, Duvall's first major role was as Boo Radley in Kill a Mockingbird in 1962. Even though he didn't say much, his performance captivated audiences and cemented his place in film history. The 1960s and 1970s were busy years for Duvall. In 1963, he was in Captain Newman, M.D. By 1968, he was starring in Bullitt, a classic action movie known for its thrilling car chase scenes. The next year, he played John Wayne in True Grit, showing that he could hold his own with Hollywood legends. In 1970, he had a part in a movie. In 1971, he was in the futuristic movie THX 11138, and in 1972, he was in Joe Kidd. But it was his role in Tomorrow that really spoke to him that year. Robert Duvall's journey began at the Actors Studio, where he honed his acting skills. He often says that Tomorrow is his favorite movie. Not just a role, a part of who he is. In 1983, Duvall reached a turning point. After years of honing his craft, he found the role that would define him in Tender Mercies. He played a broken-down country singer lost in alcohol and regret. He didn't just play the part, he became the character. His eyes told a story full of pain and hope. And this emotional performance earned him the Academy Award for Best Actor. It wasn't just a win, it was a testament to his hard work and journey. But Duvall's story wasn't over yet. He had already given great performances in legendary movies. In The Godfather, he played Tom Hagen, the calm and collected lawyer for the Corleone family. Duvall's first Oscar nomination was for Apocalypse Now, where he played Lieutenant Colonel Kilgore. His line, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning," became famous, and the role earned him another Oscar nomination and cemented his place in movie history. That same year, he played a strict military father in The Great Santini, which explored themes of love. Duval's passion went beyond acting. In The Apostle, he played a preacher with a troubled past, but what made it even more impressive was that he also wrote, directed, and produced the movie, which earned him another Oscar nomination. His list of amazing performances kept growing in A Civil Action, a legal drama, and more. Duval's precise and compelling acting kept getting better. Robert Duvall's last Oscar nomination came from his role as a tough father involved in a complicated legal battle with his son in 2014's The Judge As Always. Duval gave a powerful and unforgettable performance. But Duvall's career wasn't just about Oscar nominations. He had many roles that left an impact, like his return as Tom Hagen in The Godfather Part 2, and was part of the conversation about both of them being considered classics in network. He showed a darker side and a sharp critique of television. In True Confessions, a story woven with murder and betrayal, he was captivating. Duval stood strong next to Robert Redford in Days, a story of redemption in baseball. Of Thunder, he was the guiding figure for a young Tom Cruise in the world of NASCAR. In Falling Down, he played a tired man, and in The Paper, he was the calm in the storm of a newsroom. Even as he got older, Duval didn't slow down. He gave touching performances in Sling Blade, Open Range, and Crazy Heart. In Get Low, he played a reclusive man with a mysterious past. He reunited with Tom Cruise in Jack Reacher and showed his fierce side in Widows, but Duval also made a name for himself on TV, where he appeared in a number of shows that showed off his versatility. One of his most memorable roles was as Apprentice Print Ritter, an experienced cowboy who leads Chinese girls to safety across the American West. It was a story full of danger, sadness, and redemption. Robert Duvall's performance in Broken Trail was powerful and real. He didn't just play the part of Print Ritter, he lived it, showing the quiet strength and deep pain of a man who had seen too much and still carried the weight of his past. The show was a hit, and Duvall's performance stood out. His portrayal earned him some of television's highest awards. He won the Prime. Duval won the Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Limited Series for the first time, which was a true testament to his talent and hard work. But that wasn't all. Broken Trail also won the award for Outstanding Limited Series, which showed that the whole thing was a huge success. These wins were more than just trophies for Duval. They showed his lifelong dedication to acting and his unmatched ability to bring emotion to the screen. Duval proved that he could shine just as brightly on TV as he did in movies. Broken Trail wasn't just another show, it was proof of Duval's lasting power and talent. With these Emmy wins, Duval continued to surprise audiences. He pushed himself and showed that he could be great in both film and TV. His legacy only grew stronger and beyond his career. Duval's personal life. Robert Duvall's personal life is just as full of stories of hope and heartbreak as the characters he played on TV. He has been married 4 times but has never had children. In 2007, he was honest about this by saying, "I guess I'm shooting blanks." It was his way of telling the painful truth that despite trying, he had never been able to have children. He said he had tried to have children with many women, both married and single, but it never happened. His first experience with love came while filming To Kill a Mockingbird, the movie that made him famous at the time. That's when he met Barbara Benjamin, a former dancer and host on The Jackie Gluck Show. She wasn't just any woman, though. Barbara was a woman who had been in movies like Guys and Dolls and was dating Eddie's father. Duval was attracted to her beauty and charm, and they married in 1964. Barbara brought two daughters from her previous marriage into the marriage, but after 11 years they quietly split up in 1975. Duval didn't give up on love, and in 1982 he married actress Gail Young. This marriage seemed hopeful, and for a while, Duval was surrounded by his Hollywood family. Gail made him the brother-in-law of actors John Savage, Robin Young, and Jim Young. Like many Hollywood romances, Robert Duvall's marriages had problems. The stress of being in the spotlight took a toll, and his marriage to Gail Young ended after only 4 years in 1986. But Duval didn't give up on love. In 1991, he married Sharon Bowie, a dancer with a lot of energy and spirit, who shared his passion. For a while, it looked like. Even though these relationships ended after 4 years, Duval kept looking for love. His persistence paid off in 2005, when he found something truly special. He married Luciana Pedraza, who came from a world full of history and elegance. She was the granddaughter of Susanna Ferrari Bill Hearst, a pioneer in Argentine aviation. They met through a mutual friend. No big Hollywood moment, just a happy accident that everyone remembered. The flower shop was closed, so I went to the bakery. If the flower shop had been open, I would have never met her. It was like fate had brought them together at just the right time. Duval was 41 years older than Luciana, but their relationship went beyond age in interesting ways. As if fate had planned their meeting from the start, they had been together since 1997 and had a life full of art, passion, and shared adventures. One of their most important projects together was Assassination Tango, a movie set in Buenos Aires that Duval directed, produced, and starred in with Luciana. For Robert Duval, it was more than just a movie. It showed how much he loved Argentine culture, and the tango wasn't just a dance to him, it was a passion that he brought to life on and off the screen. Duval was famous for how good he was at dancing, and he even owned tango studios in both Argentina and the United States. Like the characters he played, Duval was passionate about dance, but he was also very into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a martial art that focuses on discipline and strength. He practiced it with Luciana, combining the graceful moves of tango with the controlled power of martial arts. Their love of movement brought them closer, and they became married. Robert Duval's life was more than just acting and dancing. He also went through the political world, showing how passionate and multifaceted he was. Duval was often seen as a libertarian or conservative, and he was known for believing in personal freedom and limited government. These beliefs shaped his public image and led him into politics. In 2001, Duval was invited to President George W. Bush's inauguration, which was a big deal because it showed how influential he was as a respected figure in Hollywood and among politicians. Duval thought it was important to be a part of such an important event in history. This was just the beginning of his active political participation. By 2007, he had made his position clear by publicly endorsing Rudy Giuliani for the 2008 Republican presidential primaries. It solidified his reputation as someone who wasn't afraid to say what he thought. Robert Duval wasn't just a spectator in politics, he was involved. When Rudy Giuliani ran for president in 2008, Duval stood at the convention and rallied support for him. It was a lively, intense time as candidates fought. In September 2008, Duval went one step further in his political involvement when he spoke at a rally in New Mexico in support of John McCain and Sarah Palin. The crowd was excited, and Duval's presence only made it stronger. At that moment, he was more than just an actor, he was a strong voice for the. But this wasn't Duval's only political path. In 2012, he backed Mitt Romney for president. His dedication to these candidates showed how strongly he believed in their values. But as the years went by, the political world changed, and so did Duval's outlook. In 2014, he surprised many with a big win. Duval, who had always been a clear Republican supporter, said in an interview that he was now an independent. This caused a lot of interest and questions. People wanted to know why he had changed. The answer was that he was growing unhappy with the limits of the two-party system and wanted to stay true to himself and think independently without being tied to one side. There were some shocking truths that Robert Duvall revealed about the entertainment industry. In his book Revelation, Robert Duvall wrote with passion about the problems that come with fame and fortune. He talked about how being a celebrity can affect people, showing a side of Hollywood that many people don't see. His words weren't just random thoughts, they were based on years of research. Duvall talked about Hollywood as a place where agents and producers have a lot of power, and that power could easily be abused. He said that many people in the industry cared more about promoting political ideas than making real, meaningful stories. It seemed like a shadow was hanging over the bright lights of Hollywood, threatening to overshadow the real art of. During an interview, Duvall made his anger clear when he said that he chooses to stay out of politics in Hollywood, even though it's everywhere. He called himself a political atheist and said that he doesn't take sides and would rather focus on his work. His words were strong and honest, and Duvall was clearly upset. He was sick of the arguments and the way politics had crept into every part of the industry. He wanted to get back to what was important: acting and telling stories. Duvall's worries weren't just about Hollywood's political scene. He also talked about how the industry makes people feel like they have to fit in. He said that many people feel like they have to share certain views just to stay relevant or accepted. Duvall's tone was tense and angry, urged seriousness and urgency as he talked about how everyone seemed to think the same way, and if they didn't, they were pushed aside. He thought that art should be about different points of view, not forced conformity. Robert Duvall talked openly about a troubling reality in Hollywood: the fear of being pushed out for having a different opinion. He talked about an industry that used to value different ideas, but now seems to want everyone to agree with Duvall that artists should be able to say what they think without worrying about being judged. He thought that this kind of pressure stifled real creativity and genuine expression, which are important for true art. Duvall's anger grew as he talked about how Hollywood has become more focused on looks and image than on real talent and skill. He thought that the need to be marketable and popular was overshadowing the art of it. Duvall missed a time when telling stories was more important than making movies that looked good for promotion. He was worried that the film industry today cared more about making a big deal than telling meaningful stories. He remembered when filmmakers took risks and put their hearts into their work, making stories with emotion and depth that people remembered. But now he felt like the industry only cared about making movies that looked good for promotion. He thought that the noise of commercial interests was drowning out the rich stories. In an interview, Duvall talked about how Hollywood is all about who is in and who is out, but he made it clear that he didn't care. His focus was always on making good movies and telling powerful stories. He thought that the heart of filmmaking should stay with the story itself, not on trying to stay in style or follow trends. Duvall was very emotional as he thought about how Hollywood had changed and how he longed for a return to the deeper, more important art he loved. Robert Duvall thought that too many people in Hollywood were more concerned with fitting in and making groups happy than with telling the truth. Focusing on trends and the fear of upsetting other people weakened the power of movies, in his opinion. The real goal of film was to make people feel deeply, think deeply, and not just meet a list of social demands. Duvall's views became even stronger when he talked about an event involving a famous Hollywood figure in 2004. During an interview on CBS's 60 Minutes, Duvall openly criticized Steven Spielberg, co-founder of DreamWorks. The issue stemmed from Spielberg's controversial trip to Cuba in November 2002. Duval spoke with a firm tone. He said he would never work with DreamWorks or Spielberg again, and his words showed how deeply he felt about what he saw as a betrayal by someone he respected. This wasn't just a disagreement between two people. Duval was standing up for what he believed in. He put artistic integrity and personal values above fame and success, and his decision to cut ties was based on these beliefs. Because he thought the industry should value ethics and creativity more than connections and popularity, Duval's strong position sent a message he wanted a Hollywood that valued honesty and true storytelling. He wanted a time when filmmakers could follow their dreams without worrying about being judged or turned down. To Duval, storytelling was holy. It was a place where an artist's heart and soul could be shown. Many people connected with what he said, showing that he wasn't just an actor but someone who really cared about film. He urged other artists to stay true to themselves and fight against the forces that tried to control their story. For Robert Duvall, acting is more than just a job. It's a mission to make stories that touch the soul in an industry that can feel shallow a lot of the time. His dedication to realism made him stand out, and his disagreement with Steven Spielberg showed how differently they thought about movies. Duvall, an experienced actor and director, didn't like Spielberg's blockbuster style. Spielberg is known for making movies that become hits and changing the movie business. Movies like Jaws, E.T., and Jurassic Park told big stories with lots of special effects. These movies set the standard for big, exciting entertainment, but for Duvall, this was a move away from true stories. He thought that blockbusters focused too much on spectacle, and not enough on deep characters and heartfelt acting. Duvall has always liked smaller, more personal movies that put the focus on acting. He thought that movies with real stories gave viewers a better look at human emotions and helped them connect more deeply with the characters. Duvall was annoyed by the rise of action-packed CGI movies because he thought that they took away from acting and made characters into simple props for special effects. Duvall's worries were a reflection of a larger worry about where Hollywood was going. He thought that the push for bigger budgets and better visuals was taking away from the real magic of film. He believed that movies had the power to move people and make them feel real emotions. When directors focus too much on visuals, they might forget what made movies meaningful. One of the most surprising moments in Duvall's career was when he refused to come back for The Godfather Part 3. Fans had been expecting all the familiar faces to return after the huge success of the first two movies, but Duvall shocked everyone when he refused to come back. He felt ignored and disrespected by what happened behind the scenes for Robert Duvall. It wasn't about the role or the script, it was about money. Al Pacino, who played the lead in the first two movies, was offered a much higher salary for the third movie. Duvall, who played Tom Hagen, a key character and trusted advisor to the Corleone family, wasn't offered nearly as much. It wasn't just about money for Duvall, it was also about fairness and respect. Duvall thought he was an important part of the Godfather series and should be treated the same as Pacino, who played Michael Corleone. But the studio didn't agree. They were willing to pay Pacino a lot more than Duvall. This was a line Duvall wasn't willing to cross. He thought that if the studio didn't respect him enough to pay him fairly, he would leave. He couldn't be a part of the movie negotiations, but the studio wouldn't give in. Duvall refused to give in on what he saw as a matter of respect, and in the end he quit The Godfather Part 3. The movie went on without him, and Tom Hagen's role wasn't recast, it was written out completely. When the movie came out, many fans felt like something was missing without Duvall's presence. This became a famous example of an actor standing up to Hollywood. For Duvall, it wasn't just about the paycheck, it was about standing up for what he believed in. He gave up being a part of one of the most famous movie franchises in history because he thought it wasn't fair. His decision sent a strong message that even in the tough world of Hollywood, honesty was important. Years later, people still talk about how Duvall's absence affected the franchise. Some people think that The Godfather Part 3 would have been different if he had come back, but for Duvall, the choice was clear. He would rather walk away than give up on what he believed in, solidifying his reputation as an actor who stood firm no matter what. Robert Duvall is one of Hollywood's most respected actors, and he has worked with many famous directors over the course of his career. He wouldn't work with Stanley Kubrick, who was known for making some of the most famous movies of all time, like The Shining, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Eyes Wide Shut, and A Clockwork Orange. His movies were praised for their unique styles and powerful stories, but Kubrick was known for pushing his actors to the limit, which Duvall didn't like. Kubrick's style of directing was intense and often unforgiving. One of the most famous examples of this happened on the set of The Shining, where Shelley Duvall, who played Wendy, Jack Nicholson's terrified wife, was pushed to the limit by Kubrick's demands that she perform scenes over and over again, making her cry and scream for days. The number of takes was so high that she became physically and emotionally worn out. The experience was described as a nightmare by Shelley for Robert Duvall. This was too much. He thought that Kubrick's style drained actors of their real emotion. In 2010, Duvall spoke out against Kubrick, calling him an actor's enemy because he pushed actors to their limits. For Duvall, no amount of visual perfection was worth the damage it did to the actors who brought the story to life. He valued the art of acting and thought it shouldn't be sacrificed for a director's desire for perfect shots. Duvall's strong words reminded us that for him, the heart of cinema was in the performances, not just the final product on the screen.